Hello, back. Welcome back, everyone. Hope everyone got a moment to take a little sippy and maybe a tiny munch. I certainly did. I had like 3 biscuits. I bet you're jealous.
I can't have tokens anymore.
Oh no! You have lost the game of Wanderhome.
Yeah.
Honestly, I have no self-control when it comes to grapes, so those would have been gone in a minute. If they were with me.
They were only not gone quicker than they were, because I had to stop to talk and roleplay in between mouthfuls.
So I suppose we resume more or less where we left off. Borkins having just received a mortal wound. It's a cut on the arm, and it's certainly worthy of a bandage, but he's probably going to live out the day. More so is his wounded pride for belittling the witch's curse that Hermes reminded him about moments before disaster.
Never mind Tio's wounded shirt.
Yes. Borkins does kind of go, thank you very much for the offer, Tio, but given the option, I'd prefer a bandage of clean cloth.
Does this count as giving something that Tio loves away, like something Tio holds dear away? His shirt sleeve. He's like, his shirt sleeve. Oh, I don't think he holds it that dear. It's all right.
No, Constance finishes tying the bandage on Borkins' arm and says, now, just try not to cut yourself again.
Oh, that'll be fine. It's nothing to do with that.
Well, maybe we should just wrap him up in cotton wool.
I mean, maybe during the winter, but it's a little warm for that now. So shall we go and see your friend? We fulfilled our half of the bargain, he says overly dramatically.
Yes, maybe it would be good. It's getting a little chilly as the day wears on. Maybe we could avail ourselves of inside the hill. There may be warmth and comfort and smaller worms.
Okay, well, I'm going to turn to the mole that was helping us out earlier and saying, yes, you said that you could show us to, what was their name, Tio?
Oh.
Adele?
Yes, it was Adele. I'm sure this young mole can show us to her. Yes. And the mole goes, yeah, of course. I mean, if you want to see her, yeah, sure. And starts leading us towards a small door that's sort of at the bottom of the hill. It's the closest to where we are now. And he opens it up with a big creak. All the doors around here creak. And then inside is just like it's kind of a gloom, because obviously moles don't need a lot of light, and so there's some light for visitors, but it's more like there are some glowworms that are sort of like dotting the ceiling and creating like a nice constellation of like light, and you can just about see where you're going. And he leads us like further down a passage, and then down another passage, and then down another one. We keep twisting and turning until we're all absolutely lost, completely like and utterly lost. And it's one of those things where like, should we be going back this far? She's like, well, you did say you wanted to see Adele, yes? We have to go deeper then, and deeper. And so we're just going deeper and deeper and deeper. And finally, we come to this like small sort of like atrium area with like there's like a sort of a nice table and some papers on it, and there's like a big door. And he goes, well, she's in there. If you'll just knock and go in, I'm sure it'll be fine. And then he scurries away.
Well, we can't go back. We must go forward.
Yes, quite the change. I mean, I'm sure last time I thought, well, would we better go in? And Tio knocks on the door and opens it. And inside, it's still very gloomy, but what you can see are just huge shelves that are lining a cavernous room, and they've all lined with books, like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books. And on like a small, sort of like a pedestal, like with like little reading glasses, are like completely absorbed in a book, is like a small and elderly looking mole. And Tio sort of goes, whispers, because it's a library, and goes, Adele? And the little mole sort of looks down and goes, yes, that's me, but you'll just give me one moment. I need to finish this, otherwise I'll lose my place. And she just like continues reading, and we're all stood there for quite a while, until Tio sort of coughs and goes, yeah, Adele. And she's like, oh, are you still here? Oh, what did you want me for? And she just goes back to reading again. And Tio sort of like shuffles around in front of her and goes, Adele, don't you remember me? And she sort of goes and looks at him, and then her eyes are just drawn to the book, like the tome on his back, and goes, that looks like a very interesting book. Give it here. And Tio sort of goes, why, of course, if you wish to read it, I don't see why not. And sort of like hefts it off his back, and like slams it down on this pedestal. It completely squashes the other book she was reading. And she just sort of like, and she looks at him and goes, yes, very interesting. Oh, your companions. Well, they can all go take a seat. There's a fire over there. Mind to keep it away from the books. But yes, it's warm, and there's some seating area, and maybe you'll find something to read. I'm just going to take a look at this. And she goes back to reading.
Porkins is somewhat bemused, but is kind of making his way around the library, trying to take a look at some of the titles, and kind of maybe taking a book out every once in a while and flipping through to some stuff and putting it back again.
Hermes is tucked into his bath chair over by the fire, and he's kind of like looks to be just kind of like glancing around the place aimlessly, until you notice that he's staring at the packed earth walls with a certain degree of rapt attention, and occasionally going, aha! That was me miming an old crow eating a worm, in case anyone was
I don't think there was any doubt
or concerned in any way about what was happening.
Yeah, and I think Constance is going to be having plonked Hemp into a very oversized armchair next to the fire, is going to be looking through the library, trying to find some form of picture book, or at least a fairy tale book that they can read to Hemp, or that Hemp can read themselves. Needs to be something fairly basic, though.
So I think Tio is kind of sort of hovering around Adele, who's still reading this book, and he's kind of climbed up on the pedestal to like look over her shoulder and see which bit she's reading, and is occasionally making sort of like remarks, like, oh yes, that's a very interesting one. That one has a very interesting lifespan, and that one, its migratory patterns are quite fantastic. And she's just sort of like definitely absorbed in the book and not listening, and is just like going along, and then turns to Tio and goes, oh yes, can I have this? I I'd quite like to peruse it further, but I can see it would take some time. And yes, I'd like this book, please. And
That immediately catches Borkin's attention, and he's now absolutely in full-on drama radar mode, watching surreptitiously from a distance.
And Theo is just like, well, it's not quite. I mean, it's not really finished, I suppose, but I mean, and she goes, nonsense. Plenty of wonderful works were never finished, unless you were planning to stay. Of course, I believe it might take me, I don't know, perhaps 23 months to finish this in its entirety. You're welcome to stay. There's plenty of good earthworms. And Tio's like, well, I was planning on going to the fair, Redbranch. Yes, frivolity, that kind of thing. Well, why don't you go ahead and well, maybe you can pick it up on your way back. And he was like, but I might find something that I wish to put in it. And she's like, well, yes, but I would really quite like to read this. And what did you write it for if nobody's going to read it? And I think it's like stumps Theo, and he's like, well, of course. I mean, I suppose it would be an honor for such an avid reader to enjoy my book. She goes, yes, it would go very nicely in my collection. And he was like, it's on loan, right? Yeah, loan, of course. And he was just like, all right. And yeah, she was like, well, if you just follow the passage to the left, it will take you straight back to the main living area, and it's got a lovely I've been told kitchen area and some dining. It's just there on the left. You won't get lost. And I'll see you again, shall I? And goes back to reading. And yeah, so Theo just gets down and goes, oh, I guess we're going. And she she looks up again just one last time and goes, oh, and feel free to take any small books for your child there. I do approve of education.
Me too. And Constance has got like a small pile of books that she was about to ask to borrow. And yes, I'm very grateful for these. I'm sure Hemp will absolutely love reading them.
Okay,
Well.
and Theo, somewhat just struck, is kind of walking a bit like a ghost, sort of, and goes, well, I suppose we'll be going now, and just sort of walks towards the door and turns left, and literally just 3 meters down the passage, there's like a lovely like dining room, kitchen area, and there's lots of moles bustling around, and yeah, we're in a place, and so Theo turns around and goes, Borkins, should we? Well, you've got the ingredients for that pie, haven't you?
Yes, and you have the knowledge, my dear Theo. Shall we cook it now?
I think we'd better get to it.
Very keen on helping Theo here somewhat distract him maybe from the fact that his life's work is in another room for the first time in probably several decades. But we'll quickly ferret up the extra ingredients, the kind of flour and stuff, which is probably required as well, and obviously the nettle tips and the trout. We will
The
deftly
brown butter, of course.
brown butter, and work under instructions to Tio from Tio to get it prepared, but also trying to get Hemp as well, and delegate Hemp the tasks that are kind of minimally impactful but maximally messy. So stirring and kneading.
Yeah.
And I suppose it does take a good 30 or 40 minutes to get this ready, and it's dark down here, and the time is kind of lost to us. But eventually the pie does come out of the oven, and a small table is found for all of us, and another bottle emerges from the depths of Borkin's bag, and some kind of clay beakers that were secreted around, that were in the kitchen, are kind of laid out around it. And I suppose we can make our lunch here.
Hermes is going to kind of wheel his way up to the table. He'll give a little pat on the back of Tio and say, that must be a relief to be making a journey without that weighing you down.
It's literally a weight off your back, isn't it?
And also turns to Borkins and glances down at the bottle, the extra bottle that he's produced from inside his clothes, and just kind of, as much as a crow can mouth something, just goes mouths.
I think there's a number of moles bustling around, and they've sort of just accepted our presence in the kitchen because we were like, oh, Adele sent us here. But there's one mole who just sort of walks past and then stops at the side of the bottle. Just goes, is that dark mead?
Dark mead from the Abbey. Would you like a glass?
Oh yes. It's been many a year since I've had dark mead. Me and my fellows, we travelled there. Wait, let me just get my friends. Let me get my friends. And he runs off.
As soon as you offered him one cup of it, Hermes just catches your eye behind the mole and goes again.
Borkins there is a sigh, because Borkins knows exactly what's going to happen next, and he quickly kind of decants enough mead for at least us to get a drink of it.
Yeah, he returns with 8 other elderly moles who all come shuffling in, looking very interested, and they all seat themselves. They pull up chairs and squeeze in between everyone. There's not really enough space for everyone around the table, but they make it. And they're all just yes, dark mead. It's been so very long. And everyone looks expectantly at Borkins.
Borkins does his best to divide the mead among the other people, and the other moles here gathered, having given us the hero's portion of the mead for our travels, and maybe a little tiny glass diluted for Hemp, and then the pie is cut and lunch is served, although perhaps it will
with
be
smaller slices.
Smaller slices, perhaps,
than we were expecting.
One of the moles is kind of oh, this is very kind of you to share the bounty you got from the monastery. How did you come by it? It was quite expensive when I was a lad. It's well, Borkins replies, well, it can't have been that dear. I was helping in the kitchen with them, and they let me have 2 bottles. Oh, the mole kind of looks. What about the other bottle? Would you be willing to part with that? Borkins retorts, unfortunately, that one was traded up for the trout you are eating at the minute. The other mole kind of addresses the table and goes, where are travelers like you headed? If you've come all the way from the monastery, you must have a distance in mind.
Well, we're off to the Redbranch Fair. Hopefully, it shouldn't be too much more of a journey. We've come quite a way, but yeah, our travels have at least been fun.
Been a decade already, has it? God, time
Yes.
flies.
Yes.
Time flies when you're old enough. You know, I was a bit of a scholar in my youth. Do you know why there's a fair at Redbranch?
No, I've never heard of why. I'd be quite interested to know.
I seem to remember that I do know this information, but I'd be very welcome to you retelling it for everyone, just so that everyone knows.
Well, very long time ago, before some say even the time of the dragons, the hill of Redbranch was in fact a town, and they had this fete which they had on the first day of summer and not in Tilsol. But it was a time of great feasting and sport and merriment, much like it is now. But the reason it became famous was because at one such event, a man prone to boasting said that his wife could outrun any horse that was racing on the field that day. And this was unusual because his wife was not a fast creature, is perfectly normal. And she had warned him and said, no, do not boast on my behalf. This will only end badly for both of us. But the drink had caught them both, and he cajoled her into taking part in this race, even though she was with child. And so they had this great race around the entirety of the hill, and it is no small hill. And she beat the horse. But in crossing the finish line, she also went into her final moments and bore 2 children. And she said then that for the indignity of what had been done to her on that day, she would curse her partner and all of his kind until the very name of the place has gone forever. And that is why Redbranch Fair has a fate to this very day, because forever has not yet passed. I'm all kind of pretty proud of the job well done in terms of kind of telling this little bit of mythology. This is good pie.
Oh, yes, it was my recipe. Would you like the recipe? I can write it down for you.
Yeah, of course. Never one to turn down. You're all kindness. What can we offer you in return? He kind of...
Perhaps, I don't suppose there is a wagon to take us the rest of the way? Oh,
we can arrange a wagon. Yes, we can. We could arrange a wagon. We might not be able to arrange a beetle, not in the middle of Tilsol, but a wagon we can find. Maybe in the further down the town with the surface dwellers, they might have some spare creature that can tow it.
Oh, I think I might be able to find a beetle for us.
Borkins kind of gives a very kind of nervous look across the table, given our previous history with your beetle luring skills.
Well, in that case, should we go down to the town and acquire a wagon, and I will find us a beetle.
Yeah. So lunch wraps up, and you're taken back to the surface. It is surprising how quickly you get to the surface compared to how long it took you to get down. You got the feeling that the younger mole was taking you on a bit of an adventure to maybe kind of impose, give you the sense of majesty of their places of dwelling.
Typical mole hazing.
The town, the lower part of the town, where all the fields and the ploughing in some cases, and I suppose the worming, for want of a better word, any better word, please, for those is going on. There's a lot of other kind of animal ken down there who are not moles, but the moles are definitely doing the lion's share of the Tilsol work, and there's a very kind of carnival atmosphere. But for, let's see. Yeah, but for one house at the edge of town, which seems to be very, very quiet indeed, where is one fox who's kind of poking at his kitchen garden a bit. And it is there that your mole handler kind of introduces you to them and goes, Fionn! The fox goes, yes. Cadence, what can I do for you? It's very busy at the minute. I need to call in that favour. You have that old corn wagon. We need it on loan to take these off to Redbranch. Oh, more going to Redbranch. Should have the very roof off my head. Any more of my staff leave to go to that? I wish I'd never told them about it. It's a favour. Okay. But, and he addresses the rest of you. I need some assistance, both with the cart and around here. As you can see, all my staff have already 2 days departed at the height of Tilsall to go to this festival. Wish I'd never told them about it. If you can give me some assistance with the items around the farm, that would be of great help for me. It won't take long.
I think, Tia goes, well, that might be a quite good feat for you, Borkins, and Constance to go and do. I'm not one much for farm work, but I will go and acquire us a beetle. And he walks over, and there's sort of a farmyard with a pen with some beetles in it. And he kind of walks towards there, and he starts getting his vials out of his pocket. But instead of going up to the beetles, he goes and knocks on the door. And I think it's probably a stoat answers, and sticks his head out and goes, yes. What is it? What's up? What do you need? And Tia goes, I was wondering if I might purchase one of your beetles. And the stoat goes, ha! You can't be serious. It's till soil. I need them. It's very important that I get to keep them. And Tia goes, what if I could offer you something that would get you many more beetles? Let me demonstrate. And he just takes the vial out and takes the cork off it. And all the beetles in the nearby pen just ram themselves up against the fence trying to get to him when he's holding his vial. He goes and then puts the cork back on and goes, this is a vial of the strongest pheromones, and it won't run out for another 22 uses. You can catch a lot of beetles that way. You can have a very large beetle ranch. Now, if you give me one beetle, I will give you this. And to make it even better, it will be on loan. I will not be keeping the beetle. We will bring it back. And he waves the vial enticingly, and the stoat is just well, yes, gimme, and takes the vial quickly and goes, take one. There's tack in the shed. Just go ahead. And hurries back into the house, slamming the door, probably quite aware that they've just got a really good deal and don't want to have to go back on it. And Tio sort of comes back and goes, well, there you have it, a beetle.
So in the meantime, we've been given our tasks to do, and it's mostly just kind of breaking the ground up for first farming. So it's not difficult work, but if everyone is helping, I definitely think, Constance, you and me are both going to get a token because we're helping on a farm. Hermes, what's your angle here? Are you going to?
I think Hermes will be crying off as he's quite tired, and he does, he's getting on. He does need his sleep, but he will direct Furtive, the god of dust bunnies and cobwebs, who you have never really heard or seen any definitive proof of existing, to help you.
Fantastic. Here's my token for this event. Just thought I'd let you know. While digging, you also kind of find some. You find quite a lot of just kind of coins that seem to have been discarded. Again, they seem they're not kind of legal tender. It's not like you've opened up a treasure hoard, but there's definitely some bits and pieces there. Constance, you get the feeling that Borkins is not going to be volunteering the discovery of these coins very easily.
Yes, yeah. Well, to Constance's mind, like they belong to the field anyway. Generally, anything that you find in a field, you should probably leave there. So she's going to just like, if she finds any, is just going to tuck them back into the soil.
Very good. So we now Fionn is kind of has been working in kind of a walled section of the garden where he seems to be. You can hear a lot of frustrated grunting and tressillular sounds, that is, sounds made by trestles, as he's kind of putting up the...
I'm fairly sure that Chris got that word from Hermes.
As he seems to be hastily and short-handedly trying to erect an entire kitchen garden single-handedly. Eventually he comes out and appraises the work on the kind of the slightly larger section, not the fieldlet, the little tiny small holding of your part, and it's kind of, yes, okay. Great work. Okay, it seems like we have all got our fair share from this. Thank you for your assistance. It's an old corn card over there. It'll take you to Redbranch Hill without any trouble. If you have something to pull it.
Oh, well, yes, we have that beetle over there. I'll just have to go and get it. And then Teo turns to the beetle and goes, I might need some help.
Yeah, it'll probably take a little bit to wrangle this beetle, so Constance will go and try and persuade it over.
Teo will go and get the tack from the shed and bring it. Yeah.
This goes on. I think Borkins is kind of stepping back here and watching. And in fairness, Fionn is as well, just to see what kind of is transpiring with these people who may not have actually handled beetles before handling beetles. But obviously Teo has a lot of experience has some experience with beetles and manages to get things hooked up pretty quickly. That's all well and good, and you now have a fully paid up way to get across what is effectively a road that is continuing to go downhill sometime into the Great Valley, but you make much better time now on the back of this. So much so that despite it being late afternoon, you do decide to press on. So everyone seems pretty confident. Borkins is kind of reading the map, and it's pretty straightforward. The road is well maintained. There's a lot of this is a very verdant farming valley, so the roads see a lot of use. There's no kind of debating over what is or is not a route.
I think Hermes has his bath chair kind of on the back of the wagon, maybe on top of like a couple of bits of luggage and a couple of crates, kind of like and this is dating me horribly, but the like he's like the grandma at the beginning of the Beverly Hillbillies. He's like, the chair is kind of like tipping slightly on the top of the wagon, and he's looking out over the scenery and enjoying it occasionally. Making some comment about how exparansic or wenebular it all is.
Wenebular, fantastic. Borkins will kind of will eventually bring the cart to a stop at a crossroads and go, okay, it's been easy going so far, but I have no idea where to go next. If we carry on straight, we'll probably get to the fair. And it's the probably bit I'm not sure about. Can someone check my work?
Teo says, yes. Hand me the map. And Teo is like currently like riding on top of the beetle, and he's like proper legs crossed, has a piece of like grass in his mouth. It's just like enjoying the sunshine. Like leisurely gets up and like looks at him and goes, and then looks around. And around us, there are actually quite a number of people who all seem to be going in the same direction. And there's a sort of like happy, sort of festive air. And he goes, "Well, I think it would make sense just to follow the crowd, really." And yes, well, they do seem to be going straight ahead, but they curve off a bit there, and I imagine that's the road to the festival.
Yeah. So we move on down the road, and we take the little side road that seems to be leading us once again back onto kind of B roads, as we would call them, away from the big tracks. And in the distance now, you can see a mound that's it's flat land, it's rolling fields, and ahead of you there is a mound that is distinctly symmetrical and orbular, I suppose, stealing our word from Hermes. It seems to have a kind of buttress around the outside of it that's a smaller ditch, and there is a great deal of commotion. As you get closer, you can start to see that there are people gathering on top of the mound. You can see people and all kinds of insects running and racing nearby. And you can see as more of the detail starts to come into focus as you're approaching, just more and more tents and stalls. And those of you with good senses of smell will start to smell the distinctive odor of a million different kinds of delicious and very unhealthy food wafting across on the breeze. You are approaching Redbranch Fair.
Yeah, as soon as the smell of various deep fried / cottonified foods approaches Hemp, they immediately like perk up and like stand probably on top of Hermes's bath chair, on top of the wagon, in an incredibly precarious stunt. That as soon as Constance sees it, tries to persuade them down again, in an effort to try and see up towards the fair. Yeah, so they're on lookout duty.
We carry on as Hermes. I hope Hermes is awake. If not, actually, Borkus is going to kind of nudge him awake and go, "There you go, there you go. Told you we'd make it."
Remarkable. I haven't been here for 10
years at least.
Let's not focus on how long it's been since I've been here. Why are we here again?
Fun, Hermes. Fun and stories and songs.
I think Teo jumps down from the beetle, like lighter than he's probably ever looked in his life, without this great weight on his back, and just goes, "Ho, festival! Let's go! Come on, let's go! It'll be fantastic! Fun, Hermes! Fun! Fun, Constance! Let's go! A new life! A new way of thinking! A new perspective!"
Did anyone bring any tents? And on that note, I think we'll wrap up.
Yes, that sounds good. I think Hermes is just going to send everyone else to have fun at the fair while he finally gets some peace and quiet.
That's all he ever wanted.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all very much for watching. Thank you three for contributing. That was, I think that was my first GM-less thing, and I think it went really well. I thought it was lovely. I hope everyone enjoyed the little tiny stories we all got to go through. There were some really sweet and delightful moments. Once again, you can catch us here on Twitch and indeed on YouTube in VOD form, basically Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and the occasional first Saturday when it is one-shot weekend. And our next one shot is going to be some form of the June role playing system, to coincide and cash in on the arrival of the blockbuster. To some extent. And please do let us know if you have any comments or questions in Twitch. We'll throw them up. Anything you find interesting about the system or how we interpreted it. How did you all find that? I know there's some varying degrees of experience with like fully GM-less, pure tabletop anarchism role-playing games here, so I'm interested to hear your perspectives.
Yeah, it was my first GM-less one, but I quite liked it. It was fun being able to just kind of build the world like together, and just be able to like dip in and out of scenes, which was, I quite like that.
It was very nice, and I think I think it's a lovely thing to be able to do that with world building, because generally, not even depending on the system, I think it's one static of all role-playing games that you're entering into a defined space, and with Wanderhome, your role is to define that space, and I think I think there's a lot of fun things to be done in that situation. As I always said, I can't really tell stories, but I can tell places, and Wanderhome gives me that opportunity. So it's something that really resonates with me a lot more than kind of trying to get some angry, teethy, edgy goth friends to eat their 175th mortal this week kind of vibe.
Careful, you're offending the song of my people. It's really good. Like I've played a number of GM-less stuff before. I think I was in Fiasco, which is GM-less, which was on another one of the one shots on the channel, and played a bunch of stuff. Yeah. I think like one of the things that occurred to me before we started this, like I had a moment of kind of panic as I turned to Chris and went, I think this is the most frameless thing I might have ever played. And like it is and it isn't. Like I really like it. I think I'd like panic playing it repeatedly unless I had like improvisational cues I'd worked on before to work from. But that's just me. That's just who I am. But yeah, it's fun, and like it's wonderful and gorgeous as well. The it's worth mentioning, by the way, that Wanderhome is the because you backed this on Kickstarter, right, Chris?
Yeah, I did.
And am I right in saying the physical delivery is like impending?
Impending, yes. I'm very much looking forward to it. It is gorgeous.
So I'm sure it'll be out and about and available. And just for credit where credit is due, I think the two main creators behind it are Jay Dragon and Ruby Lavin. So awesome job to them, and with a bunch of other creators as well, I should imagine. And as we gear up for throwing some comments from chat in here. Also, just want to say thank you to our followers from the last couple of days. Incan Stories, Nyeaf, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, maybe not. Trouser Mouse, Iron Shivers, and Weed Distillate. Thank you so much for those.
Trouser Mouse wins best name out of that clutch, I think.
Trouser Mouse is excellent. And let's throw some comments up on screen. This one from John. Heptabulous, that's at least 7 times more than fabulous.
Non-stop fantastic work on your fake and sometimes not so fake words throughout the adventure.
What else have we got?
So many. It was good. It was a good chatty show.
It was a good chatty show. Yeah.
I think so just kind of some behind the curtain stuff while we find something. Burrow with ensuite pool, yeah. I suppose if it rains, all burrows become ensuite pools.
Here we go. Here's a nice comment from Wendelius, one of our lovely patrons. This is a fun system. In some ways seems scarier to run than a traditional adventure where you can lean on the GM to take you on the journey. It definitely is, yeah. Here you really rely on everyone to engage. I also keep expecting Telling Tale standards to pop in, a strange murder over here, a heist to plan over there, but it's been very nice to follow our wanderers so far. Oh, God, you're enjoying it.
I think it's definitely whimsical. It's less of the dark things that we seem to do otherwise on the channel.
Yeah.
But it was a nice little relief of everyone just kind of getting along and helping each other.
I think that you can tell the best stories like that. I think as a peek behind the scenes, I had 7 kind of little micro stories, vignettes almost set up. I think I used 2.5 of them and adapted some of the others into parts where I was improvising. I think that worked out really well. And I think when I've been talking to people, there's definitely 2 camps. When I've been describing this game to people who don't do role-playing games often, they are much more comfortable with the description of how I tell about this game as kind of a collaborative storytelling mechanism rather than an actual kind of game with rules than they are of me trying to describe to them from first principles how something like Symbaroum or Vampire works, and that there are all these interlocking systems and numbers and meta overlaying components that need to be tracked. So I think someone else was pointing out later in the chat that this has been Wanderhome has been a great gateway system to get people into role-playing games, because us as role players get a little bit paralyzed with fear when the systems are all vanished.
Yeah.
But people who don't role play get a little bit terrified by the concept of all these extra systems and things they have to track.
Yeah,
I think that's
honestly,
absolutely true,
considering I'm not experienced as a role player really, I feel like it's the dice and the mechanisms and the systems and how everything works in a traditional role play that's quite not off-putting but just intimidating.
Yeah.
So this, when I was like, oh, there's no dice, I don't actually have to count anything.
Yeah.
I think that some of us didn't even actually use tokens at all in that. So you kind of don't have to listen to it that much.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sold on the tokens mechanic in this. I think to me personally, I think it might be a layer that's not needed. But each to their own.
I think it might be something to do with encouraging players to perform those kinds of actions, especially if you're not used to role playing. It can give you an idea of something to kind of nudge the story along in a wholesome and whimsical way.
Yeah, I think you are absolutely right. And it's that split between role playing games are often essentially like a split between a board game and a parlor game in that sense of you're sharing and telling a story, but there's also mechanics and systems underpinning it, and it definitely is one of the newer games that strips that away and almost becomes a sense of you're just sitting around and playing an extremely specific game of Exquisite Corpse, which is good.
Well,
I think that's it, Chris. So could take us out.
Moths is a worthy life calling. Great work on kind of breaking the character down there. Tio kind of having a bit of a life-changing moment throughout that story.
Tio really took a journey here.
Yeah.
I think I probably could have done better with being cursed by a witch to be less thievy, but I still maintain that I didn't actually steal those mead bottles. They were just given to me by a friendly kitchen porter.
Well, Hermes doesn't believe you. That's all I'm saying.
I don't think that's
nobody
the joy
believes
of playing the vagabond.
I've got 2 things to mention off the back of this that I don't think we mentioned throughout. First off, can we have a moment of appreciation for Skye's Toad voice? Seriously,
that was amazing.
That was really good.
Thank you. I was worried it would be annoying. People would just be like, "Oh my gosh, can she stop already?" But
secondly, I had a bit that I never got to use through this because I figured we'd be referring to the different animals a lot more. And I had a bit that I was going to do where the first time someone referred to me as a crow, I was going to be outraged and say that I wasn't a crow. I was clearly a raven. And I was going to change my nameplate to Hermes the Raven. And then if someone referred to me as a raven, I would be outraged and say I'm clearly a rook. And do the same again with jackdaw and then circle back round to crow.
That would have been great.
Kind of sad we missed that, but we got the physical. We got some amazing physical passovers with the map as well, which is probably the most theatrical we've ever been on Telling Tales.
The map
superb prop work.
Frankly, nightmarish. It's the stuff of nightmares for me.
Sure. Cool. I think that's us. That's us, folks. So.
Thanks once again, everyone, for joining us. And if you're catching us live or if you're catching it on the VOD, tiny, adorable friends are amazing. And have an absolutely fluffy day. I don't know how to sign off on one of these things. We can't be as spooky as
just
usually.
pretend that you're saying goodbye to someone. Take care. Stay safe.
Yep.
See you later. Bye,
Have
everyone.
a nice afternoon. Goodbye.
Drink water.
Bye.
Have a nice
Drink
day.
water. Lots of water. Bye bye.